ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Tech Showdown. My name is Kevin. This is my co-host Teddy. I'm wearing the funny hat again because you guys loved it so much. And today we're checking out this guy right here. This is the gaming laptop I brought with me to Computex and what I used around Asia. It's the MSI GE63 8RE Raider RGB. And it was, yeah, very, very solid laptop. So that's what I'm going to be reviewing here today after using it for about a month now. So let's start with the exterior and I/O. So exterior wise, it's called the RGB for a reason, because there's RGB lighting everywhere. You'll notice that I have it turned off. That's because I don't want it to run out of battery while I'm showing it off to you guys. It does chug through the battery pretty heavily with all the RGB lighting on, and as you guys know, I'm not a big fan of it, so I turned all of it off where I could. If you are a fan of it, or you're just going to be using this guy plugged in all the time, then you can turn it on, and it does look pretty, but yeah, I turned it off. It has their standard look, otherwise, you know, the brushed aluminium look that they've been doing for ages. It does look good. I'm definitely not saying it looks bad, but it's not very original now, as you guys will have known if you've been looking at laptop reviews from MSI for the last like 2-3 years. They've been doing this for quite a while now. As far as the I/O goes, nothing on the front or the back. If we go over to the left-hand side, if we work from front to back, you have a mic jack there, headphone jack, USB 3.1, Gen 2, Type-C and Type-A ports, mini display port, HDMI port, Ethernet jack, and a secure lock down the back there. And over on the right-hand side, working from front to back, you have a SD card slot, 2 more USB 3.1 Gen 1 ports, not Gen 2, and then your AC input at the back there. So decent I/O, somewhat minimalistic, although compared to what some companies are doing now, I guess not very. But yeah, it was solid for me and I didn't have any issues there. So let's talk about the specs then and see what this guy's packing. So it's coming with the i7-8750H CPU. That's a 6-core, 12-thread Coffee Lake CPU, 2.2 GHz base clock, and a 4.1 GHz turbo clock, although I never saw this guy drop below, I believe it was about 2.8, 2.9 GHz. It tended to hover around sort of 3.5, depending on what you're doing. If you're doing games, you often see it go up to its turbo frequency. Memory wise, comes with 8 GB of DDR4 memory. That's just fine. Display wise, you can get it with the 120Hz 1080p 15.6 inch display like I have, or you can get it with a 4K 15.6 inch display. I wouldn't go for that, as 4K on a 15.6 inch panel, not very big, so it's pretty crazy. I probably wouldn't do that even if you were using it for editing or things like that. I had no issues at all with the 1080p display. Now, as far as the GPU goes, I got it with the GTX 1060, the 6GB one. You can get it with a 1070 as well if the 1060 is not going to be enough for you. It comes with a 256GB M.2 SSD and a 1TB 7200 RPM HDD for all your mass storage, and it weighs about 2.5 kg, so about average. It wasn't an issue for me, and I carried this guy around in my backpack all the time. I didn't have a problem with it in the slightest. Display wise, the 15.6 inch 1080p 120Hz display is really solid. The colors looked good, and having that high refresh rate means it just takes the gaming experience to the next level. It's really, really good. If you play a lot of first-person shooters, you'll also notice that it makes it just a little bit easier. Just remember that with the GTX 1060, you're going to have to keep the frames up nice and high to be able to take advantage of the 120Hz display. So let's talk about the sound quality then, and this was actually quite impressive. So it comes with 2 3-watt speakers and 2 3-watt woofers, and the downwards firing, which isn't ideal, but they actually do a really good job. It's very, very good. It goes really loud, it sounds awesome, and I had no issues with it at all. Now, it is downwards firing, so if you put this on your lap, then you're going to find out pretty quickly that the sound quality goes down a lot, or using it on a soft surface like a bed or something, it'll muffle it quite a bit. So definitely chuck it on top of a book or use it on a desk or something, and then the sound quality is just fine. And I actually thought it was one of the best laptops I've ever used in terms of sound quality. It was actually very impressive. Now, as far as the keyboard goes, no surprises here. They're using a SteelSeries keyboard. It's very good. 2mm of travel on the keys. I didn't have any issues with it. I did a lot of typing on this, and it was absolutely awesome for it. The RGB lighting looks good, but once again, it will use a lot of the battery up, so I wasn't a huge fan of it there. But yeah, good keyboard, and as far as the touchpad goes, it has a good size. It's fairly accurate for the most part. Clicking was good, finger slides easily. I didn't have any issues here with the touchpad either. Now, as far as the performance goes, I didn't use this that much for gaming because I was so busy doing other things, although I did do a lot of editing on it. So for editing, it was just perfect. Like, I couldn't, you know, I'm not going to say I couldn't ask for more, because we can always ask for more. But it was a big concern of mine going over, because I'd never been to Computex before. I didn't want something that would take ages to render everything, but that i7 did a solid job. Honestly, I had no complaints there, and it was very, very good. Now, as far as gaming went with it, it does a decent job. So to give you an idea of the performance, let's start with Cinebench then. And you can see the i7 put up pretty good numbers there, 1040 CB. That's fairly solid. Then let's go to some games. So Rainbow Six Siege. This is a sort of medium requirement game. And you see on Ultra it was getting 125.5 FPS. That's really good, taking advantage of that 120 Hz panel. Then we go over to Assassin's Creed Origins, and you see it drops down to 61, and that was on the very high preset. Now, that is a difficult game to run, so I can understand it, but, you know, we still would have liked it to be maybe a little bit higher there. And then Far Cry 5, very popular game, was doing about 70 FPS average, and that was on the Ultra preset. So as far as gaming performance goes, the 1060 does a fine job. In certain high requirement games, you're gonna have to turn down that preset of Ultra. If you're wanting to get that FPS up, you know, well over 60 FPS to take advantage of the 120 Hz panel, then you're gonna have to turn it down even more. But for your low requirement games, medium requirement games, it's gonna be very, very good for it, and you won't have any complaints. Now, as far as heat goes, the CPU got pretty toasty. So when I was doing rendering, stuff like that, I would see the CPU go up to about 83 degrees Celsius, sometimes maybe a bit more if it was a hot room. So that was toasty, but it wasn't throttling, so that's fine. And GPU-wise, it didn't have any issues. It was going up to about 72, 73 degrees when you'd be playing games with the GTX 1060. Now, it would get pretty loud at times. I would say the noise is above average for sure, but it wasn't anything too horrendous, and when you're doing casual things, it was just fine anyway, so I don't have any major complaints there. So let's talk about battery life now. And with all the RGB lighting on and all the other stuff, it's not ideal. You're gonna see maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours out of it. It's not ideal, guys, honestly. But once you turn all that stuff off, it does go up. So with all the RGBs off, like how I had it, and running conservative settings, you'll be able to get over 3 hours of battery life out of it. I was seeing maybe 3 to 3.5 hours. So that's just fine with casual use. With gaming, obviously, you're probably going to be wanting to use it plugged in anyway. So, yeah, battery life, not ideal if you're running it with all the lighting, but if you run more conservative settings, you can get somewhat decent battery life out of it. But yeah, this is probably one of the weakest areas with it, is the battery life. Which brings us now to the conclusion. And what do I make of the MSI GE63 8RE Raider RGB gaming laptop? So right now at playtech.co.nz, you can pick this guy up for 3,100 New Zealand dollars. And that's quite a bit of money. So this definitely isn't a cheap gaming laptop, that's for sure. But it is a very good all-rounder. When I was looking for a gaming laptop, so I needed one to bring with me for, well, a laptop in general, to bring with me to do all my editing and everything at Computex. And I was looking around all the different specs, all the different models, and then this one just caught my eye, and I thought, yeah, this one is looking like a really solid all-rounder, and that's why I took it. And I wasn't the only one. Other tech YouTubers brought GE63s as well. And it certainly was, honestly. It's a very, very good all-rounder. It's good looking, it has solid specs, and a nice 120Hz 1080p display, which made it an absolute joy to use. The 6-core CPU gave it all the power I needed for editing, and the 1060 was enough for all my gaming needs. So all round, I thought it was a great laptop, and I have no major complaints with it. So if you're looking for a gaming laptop that ticks a lot of boxes, it is quite expensive though, then take a look at this guy. Maybe you can get it on special or something like that for a bit cheaper, but it is a very good all-rounder laptop if that is what you are looking for. And that's gonna round out this video, guys. Ooh, so nice and thin. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know in the comment section down below. Generally, when you want to go buy a gaming laptop, maybe you're in the market for one right now, how much are you looking to spend? You can put it in whatever currency you want, your local currency or USD if it's easier. How much do you want to spend? Like, how much do you think is fair to spend on a gaming laptop? Let me know in the comment section down below, as I'd really like to know. I thank you all for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time.